What if I told you the reason she doesn't touch you anymore, the reason her eyes feel distant, I used to think she changed, that something in her just switched off. She used to touch me like I was oxygen, look at me like I was the answer, whisper things that made my skin burn. Now she's quiet. Now her eyes are somewhere else. Her body's here, but the fire is gone. And I used to ask myself, what happened to her desire? But Freud would have asked me something else. Did that desire ever belong fully to her at all? Because now I see it. She wasn't confused. She wasn't cold. She was censored, not by me, by everything that came before me. From the moment she could feel anything, she was told to hide it. Don't want too much. Don't touch first. Don't ask for more. Don't take control. She was trained to smile, to laugh at jokes she didn't find funny, to say maybe when she meant yes, to say I'm tired when she was starving for connection, to say I'm fine when her skin hadn't been touched in weeks. She didn't forget how to want. She learned how to suppress it. That's what Freud saw. A woman conditioned to perform desire, but punished for feeling it. So now when I touch her, it's not just me she flinches from. It's the echoes, the guilt, the shame, the centuries of silence she had no choice but to swallow. Her body isn't cold. It's in hiding, not broken, protecting itself. Because every time she reached for her own desire, the world slapped her hand away, called her too much, too fast, too needy, too loud, too wild, too dangerous. So she learned to cross her legs, lower her voice, numb the ache, and smile politely at what once made her moan. And I thought it was me, that I had failed to ignite her. But the truth is, she was never given permission to burn. Her body remembers though. It always does. Even when she doesn't. Even when she pretends it's gone. So now I ask myself something different. Can I touch her without expecting anything back? Can I stay, not to fix her, but to give her space to unbury herself? Because her desire isn't gone. It's just buried under 1,000 whispered rules she never asked for. And now I understand. When I reach for her, I'm not just reaching for her. I'm reaching through generations of fear, shame, censorship. So no, the question was never, what happened to her desire? The question is, am I strong enough to help her feel safe enough to want again? Because female desire was never missing. It was forbidden, and I'm not here to awaken it. I'm here to protect the space where it might finally return. She once reached for me with warmth, spoke with energy, looked at me with light in her eyes. But over time, that light faded. Her words became fewer, her presence more distant. I used to think something changed in her, that maybe she didn't feel the same anymore, that maybe I had failed to connect. But now I understand she didn't lose her desire. She was taught to be ashamed of it, not by me, by the world around her. Freud saw it early, even if most ignored him. He believed a woman's relationship with her own desire was shaped not only by nature, but by quiet, relentless conditioning. Because when a woman is taught that her wants make her too much, when she's warned that expressing interest makes her improper, she begins to silence herself. Not because she wants to, but because she thinks she has to. She learns to smile politely, to avoid saying too much, to never appear eager, not because she's cold, but because being open began to feel unsafe. And I felt the result of that. Not through anger, but through distance, through her hesitation, through the way she held herself back. Freud called it the Madonna whore complex, the way society divides women into two impossible categories: the respectable one and the one who's desired. But what we forget is this split doesn't only exist in men, it lives in her too. She wants to be known, to be close, to feel safe enough to be fully herself. But she also wants to be respected, and she's been told for too long that wanting both is impossible. So she walks the line, gracious but not too open, present but guarded, hopeful but careful, and eventually she pulls away. Not because she's not feeling, but because feeling too much has never been safe for her. Now I realize her quiet wasn't rejection, it was protection. She wanted connection, but only if she could trust it would still be there tomorrow. She wanted closeness, but only if it didn't cost her dignity. And the more I reflect on it, the more I see how often women have been asked to hide what's natural, to shrink what's human. Not because desire is wrong, but because the world has made it feel risky. Freud never said women lack depth or emotion. He said society taught them to bury it, to suppress it, to survive in silence. And now I ask myself, can I be the kind of man who makes her feel safe enough to stop hiding? Because what she needs isn't someone to wake her up. She needs someone who doesn't walk away when she finally lets herself be seen. Because her desire isn't gone. It was never gone. It was simply waiting for safety, for respect, for understanding. And once a woman feels free to be fully herself, to want without fear, she doesn't just open up emotionally, she rises, she shines, she becomes powerful in a way the world can no longer control. And that's the part they never teach us, that her silence isn't the absence of feeling, it's the presence of fear. But that can change if we choose to listen. At first it was real, the way she looked at me, the warmth in her touch, the spark in her voice. She wanted this not out of expectation, but from something deeper, something raw and real and alive. But slowly, something shifted. Not because she stopped caring, not because she lost interest, but because the world had already been teaching her how to be wanted. She started noticing what kind of women were praised, what kind of smiles were liked, what kind of bodies were followed. She began adapting, subtly, quietly, a softer laugh here, a more careful yes there. And before either of us realized it, she was no longer feeling. She was performing. She began editing herself in real time, not to deceive, but to belong, to be seen, to be accepted. She said things she didn't feel, reacted in ways that weren't hers, smiled through moments that didn't touch her. She gave me what I seemed to want, but not always what she needed to give. And here's the hard truth I had to face. I felt it, even if I couldn't name it at the time. She was with me, but not present. She responded, but something was guarded. Beautiful, yes, but unreachable in ways I didn't understand. And I blamed myself. She blamed herself. But now I see it wasn't either of us. It was the system, the messages she grew up with, the culture that taught her to be chosen, not to choose, to be admired, not to feel, to be perfect, not to be real. Freud, flawed though he was, saw this. He understood that female desire, in a world shaped by male approval, becomes something reflective, not something expressed. She wasn't with me anymore. She was watching herself through my eyes, adjusting, improving, hiding. And the more she performed, the more her true self disappeared. Because you can't please and feel at the same time. You can't edit and surrender in the same breath. Now I understand she wasn't faking joy. She was faking safety, because once, somewhere along the way, she told the truth about what she wanted, when, how, and how often, and someone made her feel like she was too much. So she began offering only what she thought was acceptable, not out of manipulation, out of self-protection, and I was there taking what she gave me, not realizing what she wasn't giving, not realizing what had been taken from her long before I ever showed up. She didn't stop feeling. She was taught to hide it, because in this world, desire is celebrated when it's male, but when it's female, it's judged, dismissed, silenced, and until that changes, she'll keep pretending. Not because she's dishonest, but because pretending is what she was trained to do. Not to deceive me, but to protect the part of her that still wants deeply, honestly, and in ways the world has never made room for. And now I know better. If I want to truly know her, I can't just wait for her to open up. I have to make it safe for her to stop performing, because what she hides isn't distance, it's fear. And what she needs isn't perfection, it's presence. She told me she was just tired, busy, a little off, said she hadn't been in the mood lately. I believed her, but something deeper inside me felt the gap. She was near me, but not with me. Touch felt like routine. Intimacy felt distant, and I didn't know why. But now I understand she wasn't rejecting me. She was protecting herself, not from me, but from something older. Freud once said that repressed desires never vanish. They wait, they shift, they show up as silence, as stress, as coldness you can't explain. And now I see it clearly. She didn't stop wanting. She just stopped feeling safe enough to show it, because somewhere along the way she was taught that real desire made her too much, too forward, too loud, too bold. So she did what many women do. She learned to shrink her feelings, to mask her craving for closeness with polite distance, to replace longing with logic, to say, "I'm fine," when everything inside her said otherwise. And it showed in her irritability, in her disconnection, in the way her body tensed during moments that used to feel natural. She wasn't broken. She was trained, taught that if she truly let herself want, she might be judged, used, shamed, or worse, abandoned. So her body made the only choice it could, to shut the door before anyone could walk through it. And I felt it. That door. No matter how gently I knocked, she wouldn't open it. Because the world had already told her, desire isn't hers to claim. It's something to be cautious about, to be controlled, to be hidden. Freud called it the return of the repressed. The idea that what we bury doesn't die. It leaks. It bends the shape of our relationships. It makes us question things that have nothing to do with the real issue. And that's what happened between us. She started pulling away, not because she didn't want love, but because she didn't believe she could bring her whole self into it without it costing her. She looked like she was there, but part of her had already left. And I blamed myself, or I blamed her, or I thought we just weren't compatible anymore. But the truth? She never had a space where her desire wasn't punished, where wanting wasn't something she had to justify, where she could just be without editing, shrinking, filtering, or apologizing. And because she never had that space, she learned to disappear from herself before anyone else could. So now I know when a woman becomes unreachable, it's not always disinterested. Sometimes it's a history she never chose. And as a man, If I want to meet her where she is, it's not about asking more from her. It's about offering what the world never gave: safety, stillness, space to be honest without consequence. Because her desire was never the problem. The problem was the world that made her afraid of it. And until that changes, she'll keep editing herself to stay safe instead of showing up fully the way she once wanted to. She's not hiding because she's weak. She's hiding because no one showed her that her full, untamed, beautifully human self isn't too much. It's enough. And maybe for the first time, I can be the man who reminds her of that. She's quieter now, not because she's lost interest, but because she's finally listening, not to you, not to the world, but to the part of herself she buried long ago, the part that once wanted without shame, before she was told not to, before desire became dangerous, before wanting too much meant risking being labeled, left, or controlled. You remember how easy it used to feel with her, how she smiled, said yes, kept the peace, how she made love like she was giving a gift, even when she felt empty inside. Back then, it didn't feel like performance, but it was. Now, she doesn't perform. She pauses. She asks herself, do I want this? Am I here? And if she's not, she won't fake it. That shift. It's not rejection, it's awakening. She's waking up to all the ways she edited herself to stay acceptable. All the ways she quieted her needs, softened her voice, smiled through discomfort. And now she's done. She's choosing truth over approval, presence over performance. And that might scare you, because when she stops pleasing, she starts becoming. Not the fantasy version of her, the real one. The one with needs that aren't always convenient, with feelings that don't fit clean scripts, with a fire that no longer waits for permission. This isn't about you losing her, it's about her finding herself. And you can either meet her there or move aside, because she's not interested in being kept by someone who only loved her mask. She's ready to be seen, not for what she gives, but for who she is. And to stand beside a woman like that, you have to do your own unlearning. Let go of needing her to be easy. Let go of mistaking compliance for connection. Let go of thinking love means never being challenged, because real desire doesn't perform, it reveals. And when a woman stops editing herself, she doesn't become less. She becomes fully alive. Freud called female desire the dark continent, unmapped, misunderstood. But maybe it wasn't meant to be mapped. Maybe it was meant to be honored, not owned, not managed, just met. And the man who's not afraid of her depth, who can hold space without control, stay soft without collapsing, who can witness her power without shrinking, he won't just see her, he'll see the sacred in her. Because when a woman finally chooses herself over the performance, that's not her losing love. That's her choosing the kind that's real. Don't just scroll and nod. Don't say that hit and slip back into comfort. Because this wasn't just about her. It was about you and how many versions of her you've met without ever meeting the real one. The one who moaned not to please you, but because she was finally free. The one who said no and meant it. The one who said yes without guilt. You thought she changed. You thought she pulled away. But the truth, she just got tired. Tired of performing. Tired of pretending to want just enough, not too much. Tired of giving her body while keeping her soul locked away, because no one ever asked to see it. And now, if something in this spoke to you, really spoke to you, you have a choice. You can scroll past it like content, or you can sit with it like truth. Uncomfortable, necessary, personal. Because Freud wasn't wrong, he just didn't get to finish the sentence. Her desire was never gone. It was silenced. By culture, by shame, by expectations that told her wanting too much made her less. But now, she's not asking for permission anymore. She's not returning to perform. She's returning to herself. And if you're the kind of man who's ready to meet her there, in the silence, in the truth, in the heat that doesn't play by rules, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Save it for the days when the world tells you to forget. Comment if something in you stirred, because this isn't just a message, it's a mirror. And most look and turn away. But if you're still here, that means something in you is done pretending too. So don't let this be another scroll. Let it be the moment you wake up to what she was always too sacred to say, and what you were finally strong enough to hear.